Guys, did you read Rainbow Magic series? This part is storybook fairies. Elle the Thumbelina Fairy. 1. The Storytelling Festival. Rachel Walker skipped along the riverside path, enjoying the warmth of the sun and the scent of flowers in the air. Her best friend, Christy Tate, did a cartwheel beside her and laughed. It was always exciting to spend a weekend together, but this weekend was going to be extra special. They were going to the Weatherberry Storytelling Festival, and they could hardly wait. "Hurry up, Mom," called Christy, looking back along the path. "It's almost time." Their favorite author, Alana Yarn, was going to be sharing her best storytelling tips, and the girls were really looking forward to seeing her. "Don't worry, we won't be late," said Mrs. T with a smile. "Look, the festival tents are just up ahead. Besides, my cartwheeling days are over, Christy. I'm never going to stop cartwheels, even when I'm grown up," said Christy. She grinned at Rachel. They reached the bright festival tents, which were decorated with bunting and huge book pages. "They look as if they come from a giant's book," said Rachel in delight. "I do miss getting lost in storybook worlds," said Mrs. Tate. "The books I loved best as a child were filled with imaginary things like magic and fairies." Christy and Rachel exchanged a smile. They knew that fairies are real, not imaginary. In fact, they had lots of fairy friends, but they were the only two people who knew about it. "Oh, look!" Christy exclaimed. She pointed to where a boat was moored by the riverbank. There was a sign on the path beside it saying "Story Barge," and the boat itself was piled high with books. A man was standing on the barge, smiling at them. "Are you here to see Alana Yarn?" he called. The girls nodded, and Mrs. Tate smiled. "Have fun, both of you," she said. "I'll see you later." She hugged them goodbye, and then they skipped over to the story barge. "Welcome to the Storytelling Festival," the man said. "Alana Yarn is about to start. Go and sit over there in the grassy hollow. She won't be long." Rachel and Christy hurried over to where a large group of children were sitting on cushions. There in a circle around a bench, which was shaped like a book. There weren't very many empty cushions left. The girls found two next to each other and sat down. "I feel as if I might burst. I'm so excited," said Rachel. "Me too," Christy replied. "I can't really believe that Alana Yarn is actually going to be here." They had read all Alana Yarn's books and even queued up in bookshops when a new one came out. The other children in the group looked thrilled too. "She is here," someone exclaimed. Heads bobbed and necks craned as everybody tried to see the famous author. Rachel and Christy glimpsed a mane of curly black hair. Then Alana Yarn took her seat on the book bench and smiled around at her audience. She had a wide, warm smile and sparkling blue eyes with thick black lashes. "Welcome to this Weatherberry Storytelling Festival," said Alana. "I hope you're excited as I am about this weekend. I want you all to be inspired to tell stories yourselves and to let your imagination soar. At the end of the weekend, you will all have the chance to tell the story of your own, using the new skills you've learned. Are there any questions?" Rachel thought as she was buzzing with questions. She put up her hand, and Alana nodded at her. "How do you bring a story to life?" she asked. "Sometimes the simplest way is the best," Alana replied. "Right now, we're going to begin by reading aloud." There was a stack of books beside her, which she handed into the crowd of children. "Make sure everybody gets a copy," she said. When Rachel and Christy got their copies, Christy gave a little squeal of happiness. The book they were going to read was Thumbelina, one of her favorite stories. 2. A Magical Library. "Follow the story in your own book," said Alana, opening her copy and starting to read aloud. "Once upon a time, there was a woman who longed for children, but had none. At last she went to visit a fairy and said." Rachel and Christy were swept up in the story. Alana had a lovely reading voice, and the girls felt as if they could almost see tiny Thumbelina in her happy home, sleeping in a little walnut shell bed. One night, when Thumbelina was asleep under her rose petal quilt, a goblin crept in through the window. Alana read. The goblin thought that Thumbelina would make a pretty wife for him, so he scooped up the walnut shell bed and jumped out of the window into the garden. Christy and Rachel glanced at each other. "That isn't how the stories are supposed to go," Christy whispered. But that's what it says in the book," Rachel replied in a low voice. "Look!" Christy frowned and put up her hand. Alana stopped reading. "Is everything all right?" she asked in a kind voice. "I'm sorry to interrupt," said Christy, "but I think these books have a mistake in them. Thumbelina is supposed to be carried away by a toad, not a goblin." "Oh," said Alana, looking surprised. "I'm certain that it's a goblin. After all, that's what the book says." All the other children in the circle shot puzzled glances at Christy. They obviously thought that she was wrong too. "She's right," said Rachel in a loud voice. But the other children were shaking their heads and making hushing noises. Alana started reading the story again, and Christy looked at Rachel with a worried expression. "Something's wrong," she whispered. "I know the stories very well, and there definitely aren't goblins in it." Just then, an empty cushion beside Rachel gave a little quiver. Christy and Rachel stared at it in astonishment. The other children were gazing at Alana, so no one else noticed that the cushion hopped, shipped, and jumped. It is surrounded by a sprinkle of pale blue fairy dust. A beautiful fairy fluttered out from under the cushion. "Hello," she said in an excited whisper. "I'm Elle the Thumbelina Fairy, and I've come to take you both to Fairyland." Rachel and Christy were so surprised that they stared at Elle in silence for a moment. She was as tiny as Thumbelina herself, with long wavy hair and an exquisite pale blue dress. Her wings were dusky pink with curly tips, and her shoes were a delicate shade of lilac. "Will you come?" Elle asked. "We'll need your help." "Of course we will," said Rachel. "But how can we leave now? We're surrounded by other children." Elle smiled. "Stories make their own magic," she whispered. "The others are too spellbound by the story to notice what's happening." She waved her wand, and there was a flurry of pale blue confetti and glittering thimbles. The girls closed their eyes as the magic whirled around them, and when they looked again, they were standing in a vast library. They had been transformed into fairies, and their gossamer wings were fluttering on their backs. "Welcome to Fairyland Library," said Elle, giving a delighted stroll. "It's incredible," Rachel whispered. It's the kind of place I dreamed about," said Christy. The high shelves were a treasure trove of beautiful books with spines in every color of the rainbow. The arched ceiling was made of glass, flooding the room with natural light. 3 deep, squashy chairs with plump cushions were arranged in a horseshoe shape, and 3 other fairies were curled up inside him. I'd like to introduce you to the other storybook fairies, said Elle, leading Rachel and Kirsty forward. This is Marina the Goldilocks Fairy, Rosalie the Rapunzel Fairy, and Ruth the Red Riding Hood Fairy. 3. Into the pages. The other fairies jumped up and smiled at Rachel and Kirsty. It's wonderful to meet you, Rachel said, recovering from the surprise of being whisked to Fairyland. But why have you brought us here? I'm afraid that Jack Frost and his goblins have done something truly terrible, said Elle, sinking into one of the chairs. She raised her wand and pointed it at one of the bookshelves. A large book swept itself off the shelf and opened in midair and showed a big blank page. As it hovered there, blurry pictures began to appear on the page. The pictures grew clearer and the girls drew in their breaths. It's a picture of this library, said Kirsty, with Jack Frost and his goblins sneaking around inside. Rachel added, what did they do? They took our most precious belongings, said Elle. The girls watched the picture in the book. Jack Frost undid the golden clasp of a wooden box. He raised the lid and scooped up the contents into a bag, laughing. Then he handed the bag to a goblin, threw the box on the floor, and left the library. The picture faded and the book closed itself and slotted back into its place on the shelf. What was in the box? Asked Rachel. 4 magical objects that have power over the stories we protect, said Elle. They give the holder control of the stories. We use them to make sure that the stories go as they are supposed to, so every story ends well. What is Jack Frost using them for? Kirsty asked. He and his goblins are using our magical objects to actually go into the story and change them, said Elle. They want the stories to be all about them. Kirsty and Rachel exchanged a worried glance. So that's why there was a goblin in the Thumbelina story, said Rachel. They could spoil the stories forever, said Elle, looking very upset. We have to do everything we can stop them, and that's why we thought of you. We know that you have always been good friends of Fairyland. We will help in any way we can, Chrissy promised. Just tell us what you would like us to do. Help me get my magical thumb ring back, Elle pleaded. We'll have to go into the story and find the goblins. Into the story? Rachel repeated. Is that possible? Elle gave a little smile. This is Fairyland, she said. Anything is possible. She flicked her wand and another book flew from the shelf and into her waiting hands. It had a pale blue cover with a single word was written on the front in silver letters, Thumbelina. Come a little closer, said Elle. Rachel and Kirsty stood on either side of her, and then she waved her wand. In a cloud of rainbow-colored glitter, the girls were swept inside the story of Thumbelina. Kirsty and Rachel found themselves standing in a cottage. White lace curtains covered the tiny windows, and there was a jug of wildflowers on the wooden kitchen table. Oh, you're human again, Rachel exclaimed. Yes, said Elle. The storybook world is the same size as the human world. Look. She pointed to a little walnut shell on a nearby windowsill. It was even smaller than she was. This must be Thumbelina's bed, Kirsty exclaimed, hurrying over to examine it. Yes, look, Rachel, now there is a tiny pillow and a beautiful quilt made from rose petals. Rachel came forward too and then paused. Can you hear a noise? She asked. It sounds like someone crying. Perhaps it's Thumbelina, said Krusty. She flung open the window and looked down. Among the bright petals in the window box was a tiny man wearing a golden crown. His face was buried in his hands, and he was crying as if his heart were broken. It must be the Flower Fairy Prince, said Rachel in a soft voice. He's supposed to marry Thumbelina at the end of the story. That's right, said Elle. He's a cousin of the Petal Fairies. The little prince heard them speaking and looked up. He looked horrified when he saw the girls peering down at him. Giant! He cried, jumping to his feet. Please don't eat me! The Flower Prince. Don't be scared, said Krusty. We're not giants, we're human girls. And we don't want to eat you. We want to help you. No one can help me, groaned the prince, sinking back down into his flower seat. Why, said Elle, flying out through the window to hurry beside him. What happened? My dearest love, Thumbelina has been taken from me by 3 bright green monsters, said the prince. They snatched her from her walnut shell bed and ran off with her. Did they have big feet? Rachel asked. And long noses? Krusty added. The prince nodded, and the girls exchanged annoying glances. Goblins. I tried to follow them, he said. I ordered them to bring her back to me, but they just laughed and said that a tiny prince was no match for them. And they're right. There was nothing I could do to get Thumbelina away from them, so I came back here, hoping for a miracle. Try not to worry, Rachel said in a soothing voice. We know exactly who those goblins are, and we come to help. We'll rescue Thumbelina, and we'll get Elle's magical thumb ring back too. Do you know where the goblins took Thumbelina? Krusty asked. Could you take us there? The prince looked at the girls with a doubtful expression. I only know how to fly there, he said. I'm not sure I could lead humans on foot. That's not a problem for us, said Elle. She waved a wand, and in a whoosh of sparkles, Rachel and Krusty shrank to fairy size. The prince looked at them in astonishment as they fluttered towards him. This is marvelous, he exclaimed. Come, follow me, and I'll lead you to where I last saw them. He zoomed up into the sky on flower petal wings, and the 3 fairies followed him. Rachel and Krusty gazed down at the storybook world as they flew overhead. They passed the forest and at last reached the wild, burbling stream. There was an island in the center of the stream, and the prince stopped, hovering in midair. There, he said, pointing down to the island. There they are. 3 goblins were standing around a tree stump in the middle of the island. The 3 fairies and the prince flew closer and perched on a low-hanging tree branch. The goblins did not notice them. They were in the middle of a loud crowd. I should be the one to wear the magical thumb ring, a plump goblin was saying. After all, I'm the one who snatched her. She should marry me. He was holding a silver thumb ring up, and a long-nosed goblin shoved him, knocking off the ring onto the tree stump. Nonsense, the long-nosed goblin said, grabbing the ring. It fits my hand much better than yours. Besides, she smiled at me. I'm the oldest one, so she should be mine, shrieked the gnarly-kneed goblin, and snatching the ring and kissing it. She doesn't want to marry any of them, said the Flower Prince. I am hoping that she wants to marry me. Where is she? They looked around, and when the prince drew a sharp breath and grabbed Christie's arm. There she is, he said. Look on the tree stump. The fairies looked and saw a tiny girl, no bigger than a human thumb, running this way and that across the tree stump. She was trying to reach out to the ring that the goblins were throwing around, but she was much too small. Come on, let's go and get her, the prince exclaimed. Wait, said Rachel, putting her hand on his arm. We have to get Elle's thumb ring back too, or the story won't end properly and you still won't get to marry Thumbelina. But we can't leave her there with the goblins, the prince cried. We need to distract them, said Christie, thinking hard. Could you swoop down towards them and try to keep them talking to you? Maybe we can get the thumb ring while they're not looking. The prince nodded. I love Thumbelina, he declared, throwing his tiny hands in the air. I'll do whatever it takes to rescue her. 5. Brave Thumbelina. The flower prince swooped down towards the goblin, shouting as he flew. Let Thumbelina go, he demanded. You don't belong in our story. The goblins jumped and darted towards him, raising their hands and trying to swat him like a fly. Hooray, Thumbelina shouted, delighted to see the prince. No, you'll be sorry. No besides the prince is going to stop us, the plump goblin shrieked. Meanwhile, the three fairies zoomed down towards the goblin with the thumb ring. He wasn't paying attention to the ring. It would be easy to slip off his thumb without him noticing. But just as Christie was about to grab it, the long-nosed goblin snatched it. He shoved it onto his thumb and folded his fingers over it. Hey, that's mine! The novelty goblin wailed. Give it back! The goblin splashed into the shallow stream, shouting and squabbling. They pushed and shoved each other, dunking under the water and spluttering with fury. But all the time, the long-nosed goblin kept dancing around in front of them. I'm going to marry Thumbelina, he jeered in a sing-song voice. You two might as well and go marry Tot. Sniggering and gloating, he danced further out into the stream while the prince flew across a tree stump and put his arms around Thumbelina. I will find a way to save you from marrying a goblin, he promised. But how? Asked Thumbelina with tears in her eyes. They're so much bigger than us. Size doesn't matter, said Rachel, smiling at the girl. You've got fairies and magic and friendship on your side. I know that we can stop those goblins. We just have to think of a clever plan to get the thumb ring back, and then everything will be all right. I don't think anything will make the goblins give up the ring, said Thumbelina. I've been listening to them, and it's all they talk about. Blah, blah, blah. That and their wedding plans for me. That's it, Rachel exclaimed. Rings are really important in weddings. We have to offer a swap. Elle, could you magic up another ring? Elle waved her hand, and there was a faint magical tinkle as a sparkling ring dropped onto the tree stump beside him. It glimmered in the sunshine and immediately caught the eye of the long-nosed goblin. He splashed out of the stream and hurried over to it, his arm outstretched. Mine! He squawked. Christie seized the ring and flew upwards, holding it out of his reach. If you want this, you have to return Elle's thumb ring first, she said. Give it, hollered the goblin, jumping up and down and trying to reach Christie. I want it now. Rachel fluttered up and hovered in front of the goblin. You're not thinking clearly, she said. If you're going to marry Thumbelina, you have to have a ring to her. After all, the bride and groom usually exchange rings. If Thumbelina gives you the ring, surely you should give her the thumb ring. The goblin thought about this for a moment, but he didn't still seem convinced. If I were lucky enough to marry Thumbelina, I'd certainly give her a ring, said the flower prince. Fine, snapped the goblin. I'll give Thumbelina the ring on one condition. She has to marry me right now. The fairies and the flower prince were horrified, but Thumbelina stepped forward. I agree, she said. Rachel and Christy stared at him in admiration. They thought that she was very brave. Thumbelina, what are you saying? The prince asked with a gasp. Thumbelina smiled at him. Don't worry, she said quietly. I trust you and the fairies to save me before I have to marry the horrible goblin. But the most important thing is to get the ring back. Without it, our story will never be right again. 5. Woodland Wedding. Thumbelina and the fairies stood on the tree stump, watching as the goblins smoothed down his bumpy head and put on a moth-eaten green tie around his neck. Aren't you going to dress up? He asked Thumbelina with a reassuring smile. It's your wedding day, after all. It isn't the wedding day I wanted, Thumbelina replied. I'm not happy and I don't feel like dressing up. I don't care, said the goblin. I just can't wait to see the faces of the other goblins in Goblin Grotto when they see my bride. He rubbed his hands together and the flower prince turned away. He was worried that Thumbelina might really have to marry this horrible goblin. The other two goblins were looking very grumpy. He found some old waistcoats for the occasion, but they were rather tight fit. I will conduct the ceremony, said Elle, stepping onto the highest point of the tree stump. Thumbelina stood in front of her, and the goblin capered around beside the tree stump. First, you must exchange your rings, said Elle. Goblin, give the bride her ring. Give me my ring first, said the goblin with a cunning smile. Elle shook her head. The bride goes first, she said. That's how it should be done. Grumbling, the goblin took off the thumb ring off and placed it in front of Thumbelina. It was much too big for her to wear, but he pushed it to Elle. As soon as the little fairy touched the ring, it shrank to its correct size. Elle slid onto her thumb and smiled. Hey, that ring is for Thumbelina, the goblin protested. Give it back. Chrissy handed the sparkly green ring to Thumbelina, who held it out to the goblin. This is for you to keep, she said, but I'm not going to marry you. I'll decide for myself who I'm going to marry, and I want to marry the flower prince. With that, she ran into the prince's arms, and the two of them embraced her joyfully. Suddenly, bells started to chime all around them. Rachel clapped her hands together in delight. They're bluebells, she cried. They're telling all the woodland creatures that there will be a wedding today, said Elle. She waved her wand and Thumbelina's dress disappeared. In its place were